It's me. I'm okay. I've heard. It seems thanks to your team alone we'll be able to preserve it. Perhaps with the help of our new allies, we'll be able to improve it. Move it to where we previously decided.
I cannot hold them off!
I'll have his head for this.
Special thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Viewers, you all no doubt come to this channel for its RTS related content, and as an RTS enjoyer myself, I know I'm not the only person who has that one desire always lingering at the back of their head. An action game that lets you feel what it's like to be one of the soldiers you command on the daily, fighting enemies close and personal. Luckily, War Thunder will scratch that exact itch for you. War Thunder is a massive free-to-play multiplayer action game where players clash in dynamic battles using real-world armaments. With battlefield locations all across the world and a myriad of land, sea, and air vehicles spanning across an entire century. No matter what you choose, epic military action is always guaranteed. This game is great at what it does, and that's making you feel the adrenaline of being in the heat of battle. With authentic sound design and technical intricacies that strive for unparalleled realism, you will feel ever more in tune with the atmosphere of war. When the muffled sound of distant artilleries are drowned out by the roaring engines charging towards you in the sky, only to be stopped short by a powerful, thunderous blast from the tank you had just customized and upgraded yourself? Oh yeah, now we're gaming. There's no better time to jump in than now with the release of their latest update, Hornet Sting, featuring significant graphical enhancements to many maps, major overhaul of naval combat, a slew of new vehicles such as top-tier fighters like Su-30 and Fa-18, as well as numerous changes made with player feedback in mind. Use the link in the description to download War Thunder for free on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. As a special bonus, all new players and those who haven't played War Thunder for half a year or more will receive 100,000 Silver Lions, a special decorator called the Eagle of Valor, and more. Prefer to experience the game on the go instead? Then look to immerse yourself instead in War Thunder Mobile, a game every bit as epic as its stationary counterpart. Download and play it for free on iOS and Android using the link in the description. Back to the video. Through thick and thin, the Revolt's journey continues. Now that their suspicions regarding Yuri's master plan is validated, the Council has reaffirmed its plan to get as far away from the Epsilon HQ as possible in the event of a global mind control attack. Although intelligence from the Epsilon comm network confirms that the Allies have begun a large-scale assault on Yuri's base in the Antarctic, their chances of success remains unclear. Rashidi, yes, Rashidi, who had used the chaos of the battle at Bissau to flee on his personal Jackal prototype, has made his way to the safety of the Revolt and informed the Council of the Allies' time-stopping flying fortress. Judging by the power of the psychic they encountered in Kashmir, however, even this Paradox engine may not be enough to prevail over Yuri. As much as the Revolt wants to assist the Allies, they have no means of contacting them, nor are they likely to make it in time before Yuri's device activates. And with what remains of the Scorpion cell under Yuri's spell, and the rest busy scavenging the neurotoxins, fleeing is all they can do right now. Since the Chinese have been tracking Yuri's space shuttles for quite some time, they had long mapped out the locations of Yuri's launch facilities. The closest one to them is here, on the Alaska Peninsula. Taking control of it will allow the Revolt to make an escape to the one place that won't be corrupted by his infernal schemes. Judging by the number of shuttles going to and from the moon, it's likely that Yuri has a sizable base there, containing more than enough resources to last the Revolt until they're ready to fight back. Their prototype units, powerful as they are still half-baked and limited in numbers. Much time is needed until they can reach their full potential. After re-establishing contact with their allies in Japan, the Revolt's actions there have convinced the local Pacific Front forces, even many of those unaffiliated with the Kanagawa Industries, to join their great exodus. What they could manage is making way for the Bering Sea to meet up with the Revolt's main army, now repositioned from Sakhalin after rendezvousing with the prototype convoy. With their entire army gathered in one place, the Revolt is in their best condition to make a play for the rockets. Of course, the Epsilon did not sit idly by as the Revolt gathered its forces, bringing in a large number of mind-controlled Russians for a first strike. The Revolt's threat is clearly understood by the Epsilon, who spare no effort in their overwhelming attacks. The Pacific Front Navy rushed into the first line of battle to engage the hostile forces, fending off the attackers at the cost of nearly their entire fleet. But this brief window allowed Volknet to finish arming its first set of prototypes, supplementing its dwindling navy with new experimental units. Although a number of their projects were lost in the Kashmir explosion, the Revolt still managed to preserve several models of the Gario, a heavily armored infantry fighting vehicle that doubles as an amphibious assault transport. Its bulky frames are immune to all battlefield hazards, making it the perfect shield for the Tarkia cannon. Designed by the KI as an all-terrain self-propelled artillery, locking onto its prey for pinpoint targeting before unleashing its devastating barrage. supported by what remains of their navy. This powerful combo was able to effectively eliminate the entrenched Russian outposts on the closest islands, allowing them to construct a new forward base with which to advance their position. Not willing to lose ground, the Epsilon retaliated with an armada of basilisks. A team of rocketeers and gyrocopters would normally handle them with ease, but not here, where the air armada is protected by a debug nest. Fortunately, the KI had acquired the plans for the Infector tank from the Chinese army in Hokkaido. Its turret-mounted jammer is so advanced that it can shut down even the Basilisk's weapon control systems, leaving them helpless against the Revolt's ground-based anti-air units. Surveying the battlefield, Volknet soon identified these mind readers as the guidance system for the Dibuk nest, quickly destroying them in successive strikes. Regaining control for the skies, the Revolt was able to deploy the Diver Bee, a demolition drone based on the unfinished next-gen Hunter-Seeker project, excellent for eliminating high-priority targets. Little by little, the Revolt closed in on the main Epsilon installation, disarming their enemy's tactics with a myriad of new tricks. If nothing goes wrong, they'll soon reach the rocket launch pad and claim it for themselves. What? A most unexpected event. The Epsilon, for unknown reasons, has destroyed their own rockets before Volknet's troops even set foot in their base. The Revolt's soldiers were obviously dumbfounded by the move, but the last thing they should worry about is factors outside of the immediate combat. Volknet quickly readjusted its objectives, placing its focus on defeating the enemies first. Now that they don't need to worry about damaging the rocket launch pads, the Revolt has authorized the use of several Harbingers. Originally a stolen US design, these powerful gunships were supposed to be outfitted with state-of-the-art particle collision weapons. Though even as they stand right now, their powerful 200mm cannons are more than enough for the task at hand. Dismantling the Epsilon production, the Harbingers allowed the Revolt to gradually overpower their foes, and their troops promptly destroyed the base. A victory yet not a victory, this battle left only a sour taste in the Revolt's mouth, a feeling of unease roiling in their stomach. With their escape to the moon cut short, their chances of survival have decreased tremendously. It begs the question, for what reason did the Epsilon destroy the shuttles? Volknet suggested two possibilities. Either Yuri has predicted the Revolt's plans and made his shuttles obsolete, or he no longer has any use for them left. The former naturally makes the most sense. But what if the truth resides with the latter?
С этой лунной базой у нас большие шансы одолеть Юрия где угодно. Настолько большие, что я бы даже сказал, космические, а?
Твоя чрезмерная энергичность меня начинает раздражать.
И откуда в тебе столько...
Говорит Агат-1. Приближаемся к заводу танков Апокалипсис.
Принято. Начинайте атаку.
All preparations are finalized. Now begins the last performance before the curtain call. The intel from Yuri's lunar command base has made it clear. He's hiding in Moskva, the very place where his betrayal began, where he robbed the Russians of their motherland. No, it started way before that, tracing back to the start of the Third Great War. As horrifying as the finding was, the Soviets had discovered that the cyborg super soldier they fought on the moon was none other than Boris. The body of Boris, at least, salvaged after the battle for New York, then subjected to inhumane experiments in a crude attempt to replicate the Soviet cybernetic research. Mutilated beyond recognition, what was done to this legendary soldier was nothing short of absolute evil. They must kill Yuri. They must kill him now. Vengeance and reclamation. Fueled by the dual purpose, the Soviets mobilized all their available forces to avenge all that was cruelly taken away from them. With a final destination set, their troops in the Far East, who are among the least affected throughout this disaster, have been ordered to march through the Siberian plains. The full integration of the cyborg soldiers into their ranks allows them to cut through any Epsilon position like a hot knife through butter, completely nullifying Epsilon's psychic tricks. Curiously, they even found a few Epsilon outposts already in ruins before they even made contact. The works of other zealous Soviet detachments, perhaps. Not that the Far East forces would complain, of course, as their rapid advance has allowed them to reach a location of vital importance before the Epsilon defenders were fully prepared. The Apocalypse tank production site in the Ural Mountains, the largest of its kind, seized and reactivated by Yuri when he took control of Russia. In preparation for their siege on Moskva, the Soviets would need all the firepower they could get. It is thus no accident that the Far East forces have arrived here to retake this complex and restart the construction of these old and reliable tanks. Costly they are, but costs be damned. A few capital would not stave off the day of judgment. Driller ambushes and artillery bunkers, layers of defenses stretched across the cliffs, but without their chief weapon, the fragile Epsilon units could do little against the fusion of machine and man. Blitzing their way through the Epsilon defenses, the initial strike team quickly destroyed the psychic beacon controlling the Russians nearby. Their swift action allowed the engineers to recover the data before the Epsilon reinforcements could fully deploy. A rolling tide of Apocalypse tanks soon leveled everything that stood in the area, taking out a substantial amount of Epsilon MCVs that were supposed to be deployed to reinforce their defenses. Crushing their enemies, the Far East forces now have a clear path towards the capital, where they'll rendezvous with the rest of their army. A second front emerged, led by Krukov and Reznov, who had been organizing their ground forces in Europe and the Middle East. Armed with extracted Chinese tech, and with the remnants of the Latin Confederation mixed into their ranks, their combined forces began pushing back from the west, bringing the full might of the Soviet Union to bear on these traitorous dogs. With Moscow mere inches away from their sights, the task force has but one obstacle left between them and their reclamation. The city of Stalingrad, one of their largest industrial cities, now converted into a fortress by Yuri, as well as housing another of his psychic amplifiers. This particular device, operating at a much lower efficacy, was likely a hastily construction by Yuri in anticipation of the Soviets' imminent attacks, meant to safeguard their mind control links in the event that the primary one, built in Moscow shortly after his uprising, is destroyed. Extensive defenses were constructed to protect this backup amplifier, but a sneak attack by Krukov and Reznov themselves disabled the nuclear reactors powering the defenses, allowing their forces to safely cross the Volga River for an amphibious assault. Yet again, the cyborg vanguards dominated the battlefield, carving a straight path through the Epsilon as they destroyed the amplifier, freeing the mind-controlled Russian and Chinese forces under its command. The remaining Epsilon troops were exterminated to their last, and the Stalingrad task force continued their journey towards the heart of the motherland. 2 weeks. In just 2 weeks, the Soviets were able to push their way back to Moscow. The cyborgs were truly what they needed all along. With all key objectives achieved, the siege of Moscow itself would soon begin. But this is a battle far greater. A fully functioning psychic amplifier sits within the heart of the capital, capable of mind-controlling swaths of Soviet soldiers before they could even set foot in the city. With an untold amount of soldiers and tanks at Yuri's command, cyborgs alone won't be able to breach the city perimeters, much less destroy the amplifier on their own. A strategy most unorthodox is needed to crack open the safe, one which the Soviet general had been preparing all this time. Thanks to their skilled engineers, the Lunar Task Force was able to repurpose several of Yuri's space shuttles, loading them with as much fissile materials as possible, then attaching them to one of their reactivated military satellites to be used as makeshift nukes. What they lack in precision, they make up for in destructive power. No known defense system in the world is capable of intercepting such orbital strikes, or at least that was the case until some time ago. Having conquered the British Isles, the ingenious madman had managed to crack the technologies behind the Gladius system, and, quite possibly after studying the Soviet Doppler missiles, constructed an interceptor network of his own. According to data found on the lunar base, the capabilities of this Spatha defense system far exceeds its predecessor, boasting phenomenal reach and can even defend against orbital bombardments. Without the need to deploy the device in multiple locations to increase coverage, the Epsilon has placed all 7 Spatha units in one location. A former suburb in outer Moscow, now rebuilt into a massive Epsilon fortress. Not a shred of its former visage remains of the beautiful homes and people that once occupied this space, replaced instead with a nightmarish concrete jungle filled with weapons meant for oppression and subjugation. There is no greater metaphor for the atrocities Yuri has committed towards the motherland. Almost poetic, then, that this place would become the last roadblock on their path for liberation. The Spathas must fall, for the orbital nukes are the only way to get rid of the psychic amplifier. The thought of willingly desecrating their motherland pains the Russians greatly, but no price is too great for Yuri's death, even if Moscow must be reduced to a smoldering, irradiated husk. The timing is tight here. As the armed satellite orbits the Earth, Moscow will only be in its range for so long. If they don't fire the missiles within an acceptable time frame, Yuri won't take long to locate the satellite and destroy it. As such, the Soviet general himself has taken up the mantle of sole commander for this vital operation, launching a 3-pronged attack on the maze-like installation. The nearest psychic beacon possessing a Russian outpost was taken out first by Colonel Reznov and his strike team, followed by an attack led by Krukov and his MCV task force in the south. While these two pushed towards the fortress from their respective directions, a third team, Volkov and Chitskoy, descended from above using hastily assembled drop pods.
You are not really planning to nuke Mother Russia, are you?
Their target is the psionic converter, a generator of sorts for a new type of enhanced Tesla technology. It seems Yuri has been researching the potential of psychically charged Tesla energy. Though to the Soviets, the pioneers of Tesla tech, this structure is nothing short of the shiniest toy they could ask for right now. Since the interior Spathas are guarded by an iron curtain within the fortress, the fastest way to shut down the shields would be to induce a power surge by enhancing Volkov's Tesla weapons with the converter's energy. But the battle immediately began with a rocky landing. quite literally, as Volkov's stealth sensors were damaged during the descent, causing him to be bogged down by the shadow tanks in his path. An enemy Kirov followed closely behind the duo, threatening to end their lives should they falter for even a moment. In a genius stroke of luck, however, Volkov had stumbled upon a different outpost controlled by the psychic beacon that was just destroyed. Contained within are the finished models of the Grumble, an experimental surface-to-air missile system that was snatched away by Yuri during his insurrection. It seems he had completed the Soviets' work and brought the Grumbles here to reinforce the defense effort, which has now ironically benefited the Soviet general's advance. The Kirov airship was easily taken care of, allowing Volkov and Chitskoy to proceed more carefully and methodically through the enemy defenses. All manners of units and technologies were used to fortify the Epsilon megabase, Allied, Soviet, Scorpion Cell, as well as the best of the Epsilon's own. Rows of colossi guarded the interior sections from any who dare to approach from above, and the main entrances are sealed tight by countless concrete bunkers. Numerous aircrafts patrol the skies, including several Yerkalas, enhanced by a new type of kinetic barrier. But the combined might of the Soviet Union will rise above on this day. The union of Russian, Latin, and Chinese technologies, empowered with the crowning jewel that is the cyborgs. The outer Spartas never stood a chance against the Hell March. The bones of clones crushed by the gears of war. Nukes and dominators firing off on both sides. The Iron Curtain remained as the last major obstacle in their path. Under the cover of his comrades, Volkov entered the psionic converter to commandeer its powers. The faithful shall pray this day that their cyborg hero would find what he needs within to save the motherland.
Building infiltrated. Upgrade in progress. Warning, enemy air armada detected.
I feel revitalized.
Upgrade complete. I don't agree with this kind of experimentation, but you cannot deny the results.
Superb! The energy within the psionic converter was more powerful than the Soviets could have ever imagined, supercharging Volkov's already potent Tesla weaponry to a whole new level. His electrifying arcs instantly fried the fortress's electric circuits, rendering the Iron Curtains obsolete and even temporarily disrupted the Soviets' own communications. The mechanical man had completed his ascension to godhood, vaporizing all who stood in his path. In their desperation, the Epsilon diverts all that they can to stop the machine menace. Magnetrons, Yerkalas, even a new type of floating disc called the Ruiners, armed with confusion rays to disable its targets. Get the fuck out of my way! Supported by the Grumbles, Volkov electrocuted his way into the fortress, his side Tesla boats felling his enemies in droves, slaughtering them like cattle before destroying the last Sparta station in his route. 2 more remain, to be finished off by the other 2 task forces. By this point, however, the Comrade General no longer had any worries left. Jolted awake, the Soviet troops rally for a final push, their morale soaring through the clouds as they witnessed Volkov's glorious advance. 2 left, 1 left, done! Sparta defense system neutralized. The missiles must be launched at once before Yuri prepares further countermeasures. The payloads are approaching Earth. Impact imminent! It's done. The bombs have cleansed the entire Moskovskaya Oblast of its impurities. Not a single Epsilon soldier remains in sight. The traitor is dealt with, but not without a hefty price. The scale of the attack was too big to be calibrated precisely. With no way to accurately control these untested missiles, the Soviets had struck their own formation in the bombardment. Krukov and Reznov are safe, but Volkov was incapacitated by the impact. What the? Yuri?
I'd expect your space endeavors would open your eyes to what we can do. He shall serve me well.
The traitor somehow survived. Even worse, he has taken control of Volkov. This cannot be. The Soviets should have seen this coming from a mile away. Yuri wasn't trying to create his own army of cyborgs on the moon. No, they were only a means to an end, a tool with which to advance his own psychic powers. Cybernetic brains cannot be corrupted by mind control. That is a known fact. But the Soviets were so blinded by its certainty that they failed to consider the possibility of alternatives. And Yuri's found one such alternative, to puppeteer the cyborgs through psychokinesis alone. If he is allowed to spread this accursed power to his pupils as well, the Epsilon army will be nigh unstoppable. Yuri must die here, for his escape could very well rob the Soviets of their hard-earned cybernetic edge. That leads to the other curious matter, however. The entirety of Moscow had suffered from the indiscriminate bombardment. Even the psychic amplifier was heavily damaged and rendered useless. But the area around the Kremlin remains mysteriously unscathed. Whatever it was that shielded the area from harm, it had provided more protection than even an Iron Curtain was capable of. Maybe it was a one-time emergency device. Maybe it was rendered temporarily inoperable during the bombing. Whatever the case may be, it seems the Reds will have to finish the job the old-fashioned way. The nuclear attacks, although devastating to both sides, have granted the Soviets unfettered access into the heart of Moscow. All of their forces are now converging on the Kremlin. They must make the sacrifices count. Kill Yuri, end this madness.
Commander.
How long has it been since their attack first began on the Antarctic? The Allied commander could barely register that thought. The 24/7 sunlight certainly didn't help them keep track of the time. They've been fighting non-stop in the freezing cold for weeks now, and the exhaustion that comes with it is no longer something the Allies can overlook. Sleep has become a luxury they can seldom afford, and the familiar faces grow fewer with each passing day. It has become the norm to command several battles consecutively with little chance of succor. From the toughest grunts to the most decorated officers, fatigue and weariness have crept up on them like a weight they cannot shake off. Their fierce landing operation had proven successful, and the Allies did manage to breach into the Antarctic interiors. Without the support of their powerful navy, however, progress has slowed down to a crawl. The Epsilon headquarters, true to its name, is a stronghold befitting its status as Yuri's last line of defense. Nearly every inch of the frozen landmass is fraught with danger. Show even the tiniest gap in their defense, and it'll be overrun by a swarm of units within minutes. So far, the Allies have set up several hastily established outposts in their advance, as every piece of land they take from the Epsilon has to be tightly reinforced, else they risk being immediately boxed in before falling to a beacon. Many had to stay behind to safeguard the rear, which has put a serious strain on their already limited numbers. The Epsilon is certainly trying their best to not give the Allies an opportunity to recharge the engine. The usage of time freeze has therefore been reduced to a minimum, conserving as much energy as possible for the final confrontation. Nevertheless, the marvel of the Paradox engine remains unmatched, and the talented scientists aboard it have developed new tools to aid the war effort. With the new chronolift and the warp node, the Allies have attained the ability to teleport even structures, allowing them to spontaneously set up fortifications as they go. In truth, Siegfried has far more outlandish proposals in the pipeline, but at their current pace, it seems most of them may not be realized in time for their final confrontation. While a portion of their forces have dispersed to cover the flanks, the primary expedition accompanying the engine is now heading steadily towards the South Pole, the location of Yuri's tower. Presumably, this structure is the culprit behind the rapid melting of the Antarctic ice sheets, and as they've gotten closer, its psychic waves have also begun interfering with the Allies' comms. Their engineers are working overtime on a fix, but for the moment, they have lost all contact with other detachments, as well as the rear guard and the fleet, whose last transmissions brought only ill tidings. The London fortress has finally succumbed to Epsilon's attacks. And what a timing the news had, as the Allies had just unveiled the mystery behind Yuri's surprise attack that kickstarted all this. An old chronosphere, one Steinstech had used as a foundation for its successor, and one they believed to have been destroyed by the Midas strike. The fact that Yuri had possession of this device for so long terrifies Siegfried. Who knows what the madman has learned of their chronotechnology? They should have been aware of the possibilities, but there's no point dwelling on that mistake now. What's happened has happened. After all this time, the Allied nation's last city has fallen to the psychic tyrant as well. Without a place left to call home, the Paradox expedition is truly all that remains of the free world, making their victory here all the more necessary, and all the more necessary that they act fast, as their odds of success decrease by the minute. The Epsilon's own commandos have returned alongside mind-controlled Soviet and Allied forces. Norio and the Chrono Legion have stayed behind to intercept them, but it's unclear how long the fleet can hold against Yuri's super soldiers. One of them, in particular, has been tearing through the Allies at a frightening rate, leaving not a single survivor in her path. What's more perplexing, however, is that they've been finding other female soldiers matching the exact same visual description in several Epsilon bases, each contained in an individual biotank. Most of them, presumed to be dormant clones, were destroyed on sight in fear of unleashing a second super soldier of similar strength. But it didn't take long before the Allies decided to prod deeper into the matter. During one of their raids on an Epsilon base containing these biotanks, the Allies deployed several prototypes of their new Chrono Prison. This device, originally constructed for the capture of Yuri, can abduct enemy forces and lock them up inside a time vortex, which is exactly what they did to the female psychics inside the biotanks. Yet after a brief inspection, the Allies have reached the conclusion that perhaps these psychics are not clones after all. At a glance, they all feel similar. But then you start noticing the differences, subtle at first, yet the longer you looked, the more bizarrely distinct and unique they each seemed. Could they be sisters? People of similar genetic makeup? The Allies had no idea what they were dealing with, but perhaps they would find the answer at the South Pole. For the time being, these psychics shall be transferred to a field research base operated by a separate unit. The Allied commanders got enough on their plate already. No need to add more things for them to worry about now. So it has come to this. Despite the proselytes' best efforts, the Allies continue their relentless rush through Antarctica with their superweapon, now heading straight for Yuri's tower. Fortunately, their obsession with the device has kept their eyes off the true threat, the critical piece to unlocking the tower's full potential. Libra. She is the key to Yuri's complete and total world domination. Or she should be, except her mind is still too weak, fragmented and volatile, unprepared to shoulder the burdens of her destiny. But the Allies' superweapon leaves them no choice. Time has caught up to Yuri again, and he is no more ready now than he was before. Perhaps he shouldn't have waited 10 more years. Einstein's death changed nothing, and time has given rise to weapons and people they fight today. Despite using himself to lure the Soviets away, the Paradox engine remains a threat neither he nor the creation could contend with. Well, all that's about to change. As the final hour approaches, nature must take hold over nurture. Emotion must triumph over reason. Only then will she suffer. Only then will she adapt. Only then will she evolve. It's time for a reality check. Before the Allies were able to retake the old chronosphere, Yuri had not only managed to teleport himself to Moscow, but also moved the special equipment he was working on to a secret location. It is a gift, one which Libra must find herself so that she can face the engine directly. As she got closer to the Antarctic interiors, however, the ground became increasingly tougher to drill through. Libra was dropped off at an abandoned outpost, miles from her destination still, and ordered to traverse there alone under the guidance of the proselyte. It is unclear as to why Libra has to complete the task alone. Only Yuri holds the answer, and the proselyte was never one to question his orders. Nevertheless, there is another obstacle she must overcome before she can acquire this gift.
There's another one coming. She's here to break them free. There's no time to move them. Kill them before they kill us. Fools! They don't know what they've done. Proselyte, we have no idea how much of this Libra can endure. It's happening again, after everything we have done to subjugate her. Focus, Proselyte. Try to find her with your mind's eye.
Why won't you just kill yourself? That's too much! Make them stop! Please!
Oh, the pain. The suffering! So many voices in my head. Why can't they stop? Why can't they stop?
Get me out of here!
But they're all here now, aren't they? That's right. I could just kill all the clones. I'll kill you all!
Warning. Enemy air armada detected.
Target in sight. Alpha team engaged. Go, go, go.
Just die already!
The conniption overcame her again. There is no choice. The Epsilon's mind readers confirmed the presence of all remaining sisters in the vicinity. To set her mind at ease once and for all, Libra must kill all her clones, and the proselyte shall guide her onto this path of evolution.
Another one of those female psychics. Engage. Target her with cryoweapon. Slow her down. Where is the Chrono Legion? The sky's turning red.
Devastated London.
For every death experience, she will gain more control over her mind. For every death experience, she will grow more powerful, mentally, physically, and at the end of this, she will have full reign of her own thoughts. The Allied forces swarm onto her in relentless waves, incorporating bits of Epsilon technology they had salvaged from prior skirmishes. Try as they might, the feeble masses could do little but fall by the wayside. Most spent their last moments in despair and cowardice. The rest flickered with a hint of bravery before they too were cut down. This was no battle, but a massacre. No symphony of war, only the ambience echoing back from the pits of hell. The Reaper and her entourage, wreathed in a vortex of negative states. Lives claimed, blood spilled. As the sisters fell one by one, Libra's thoughts, her awareness, were elevated in accordance. One last outpost remains. With her comms jammed and the hopes of reinforcements all but snuffed out, the allies here make their last stand. All for naught. They were torn to shreds before long, and Libra promptly delivered the killing blow to the last of her clones.
That's better. No more fear, no more death. Is this peace? But it feels hollow. The silence is insufferable. All I remember is the feeling of dying. No. What have I done?
Fear not. I bring you peace. You feel empty now, but I've given you the potential to fill this void with so much more. We've endured a lot to get here. The world still resists, but there's only one path forward. The attack in Rio had thrown you into a death experience early, causing your violent reaction. Acting on instinct, in rage, you found and eliminated the source of your pain, your sisters. The device attached to your spine was made to channel their thoughts and powers and protect you. Now that they're all gone, you realize the truth. They were the source of your very existence. Yes, their fear no longer disturbs you, and with the proselyte's aid, you've mastered your powers. But this isn't what you were looking for. I have plunged the world into war to find its psychics. I created you to connect them all as one. Yet, it was different from what I have seen. Afraid of repeating mistakes, I have made some of my own. Against all odds, we have completed our network of psychic beacons and amplifiers around the globe. And the tower, Babel rebuilt, will merge the minds of the world, revealing all its secrets to us. You are the proof it is possible, and the key to this hive mind. Use my device to make it a reality. You can end this conflict, and with the knowledge of the world, discover the truth of our existence.
So, that's how it is. I have no soul of my own. I only take the thoughts of others. Is this all there is to it, Master? Even you don't know. The tower will answer my questions. I don't need this anymore.
Perhaps this is a good time to explain all this. The creation, Libra, is a homunculus, a genetic construct made from and by connecting the psychics Yuri managed to find around the world, channeling and reinforcing their power. There were no clones of hers, but the originals, whose talents were used to forge something whole, something far greater than the sum of its parts. Libra's destiny was never simply to be a weapon of war, but to serve as the nexus of a worldwide psychic network. The beacons, amplifiers, and even Yuri's tower are all built to serve as conduits of her mental projection, synapses of a global hive mind. He did this for only the collective consciousness held the keys to the kingdom, the knowledge needed to answer his life's question. For what purpose were psychics born on this world? To wield such power as mere mortals, it has to be a calling to something grandiose. But with his knowledge alone, Yuri was not able to understand why he came to be, why they came to be. With the minds of the entire world working in unison, however, that would be how he finds his truth. Libra is to be the living embodiment of this design, a world unified under one vision. But their enemies meddling threw Libra into the deep end far too early. With every connected psychic killed, she lived through a death, and with every death, she became more and more unstable. But death is inevitable, and the hive mind must learn to suffer through it, and suffer she did. With the proselyte's help, Libra underwent her metamorphosis and emerged whole. According to their mind readers, the original psychics, the sisters, are all dead. Whether or not this path of blood was a part of Yuri's design, we will never be certain. There is no arguing, however, that it has given Libra full control of her mind and body. With it, she has embraced her fate, and with it, she is now ready for the gift. Ever since its debut in the London fortress, the Chrono Legion has long stirred the ire of Yuri, and with every chance, every encounter, his men would try to mind control a few of them wherever possible. While the Legionnaire's teleportation device had a myriad of failsafes built into it, they'd always be able to gain a glimpse into its designs before the equipment was invariably lost. Eventually, with all this cumulative knowledge, Yuri and his best scientists have managed to recreate what the Allies refer to as the Chrono Backpack. This is their pièce de résistance, a countermeasure to the Allies' hitherto unstoppable power of Time Freeze. Her rampage here had not gone unnoticed, however, and the Chrono Legion soon traced her steps to the area.
The target must have escaped in that direction. After her.
The Allies wasted no time to begin surrounding her, using warp nodes to rapidly deploy heavy defenses to establish a blockade. With the Chrono Backpack now in her possession, Libra effortlessly avoided the conventional Allied forces, but the Legionnaires have no trouble following her, unrelenting in their chase. She'll have to kill the entire Legion, and then she'd have to kill the rest as well. Not a single soul who bore witness to this carnage can be left alive, lest she risk being exposed as the true threat. The two sides fought from one end of the frozen gorge to the other, blinking left and right so fast that all one could register were flashes of red before their lives were forfeit. A massive aerial battle had occurred earlier in this region, and Libra managed to salvage some terminus gas from the destroyed Dibuks, using them to momentarily enhance her combat abilities. Unable to keep up with her movement, the Allies called in their air force to try to bring down the witch. Libra easily sidestepped the missiles with her backpack, and followed the jets back to their airbase. In their panic, the commander of the local Allied forces tried to relay the situation back to the main expedition, stalling as much time as he could with the chrono prisons and force shields, neither of which were enough to stop Libra. The shield command was destroyed. Then, the comm tower. The commander dons a chrono backpack as his last resort, but to no avail. He too bites the dust. Not a single survivor. Libra has prevailed, but the rapid teleportations had not only depleted the Chrono Backpack's power, but also seriously drained Libra of her strength. She feels tired, for the first time in her life. The backpack needs to be recharged, and Libra has to get to the tower quickly. Luckily, the tunnel to the HQ lies just ahead. It's Norio! He and his men have gathered what's left of the Chrono Legion and chased her all the way here. The situation couldn't be worse. Normally this battle would be a landslide victory, but at her current state, Libra would be hard-pressed to handle another.
Prepare for redemption!
No time to mince words. Norio's elite rocketeers charged in as soon as they arrived, followed by bombing runs from several unidentified Allied jets. The hero of Japan himself joined the attack, launching swarms of homing missiles and cryo beams at Libra. With no other choice, the creation retaliates, inhaling the remaining terminus gas to temporarily boost her powers. Watching as the witch cut down his best men in split seconds, Norio signaled the rest of them to back off, intent on engaging Libra by himself so as not to cause any further casualties. Assistance came instead in the form of long-range bombardments, cryo-spears, hunter-seekers, zephyrs, mercury strikes. Dodging to her best ability, Libra fired back with every opportunity, wounding Norio greatly with each attack. But he would not relent, using restorative chronotech to barely sustain himself in combat. The battle continued, tooth and nail, and the exhaustion was gradually getting to Libra. The enemy bombardment became more and more precise, and even lightning storms were called on her position. The proselyte stayed with her until the end, and under his guidance, her aim stayed true on the target. The deadly dance eventually came to a close, as Libra unleashed a final, critical blow, killing Tomokawa Norio.
Siegfried, Tanya, 君たちを失望させてしまった。
You could have joined us, warrior, and yet you chose the little death. Only we will remain.
It is done. The hero of Japan is no more. The rocketeers that followed Norio had fled the scene, likely to report his death to the main expedition forces. Rest assured, however, Norio will not feel alone in the afterlife. The rest of them will follow soon after. They will resist. They will flee, but none shall prevent the Epsilon from realizing Yuri's vision. At the end of this road, there will be no free will. Only one will. As Libra regrouped with Ron's elite task force, the HQ commando debriefed her on the current situation. The allies have reached the tower and have already begun the attack. They must head there at once. Despite their haste, Ron still found the time to remark on the drastic shift in the creation's demeanor. Perhaps this unusual calmness is how she really is? Libra paused momentarily before she replied.
There is only one true Libra.